Start spreading the new.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.
Rose trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer! Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Puts up the three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang!
What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and we got another great episode in store for you guys. We're going to talk more NBA draft. If you saw the last episode with my guy Stephen Gillespie of the No Ceilings Pod, we got into a lot of stuff about the draft, some of his favorite prospects, some sleepers, and we're going to get into some more of that with today's guest. And he's a first timer on the pod. He's one of the best out there. My guy James Barlowe. He co-hosts with his brother, talking all things draft. So James, my man, appreciate you for coming on the pod.
Appreciate you for having me.
So like I said, you co-host with your brother, and I just wanted to ask you, because this is your first time. This is my first time having you on the show. So I just wanted to get to know you a little bit. So what made you want to just start evaluating players? When was that first moment you're like, what, I kind of like evaluating players?
I feel like I've been evaluating players since I've been watching basketball, from the lunch table, arguing with guys, to the barbershop arguing with guys. I got two brothers arguing in person when we all live together via text now, since we scattered across the country. But my brother started the platform in, I believe, 2017 draft, and I did it the first year, and I stepped back, and then he asked me again, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I'm here now. So I enjoy all things basketball. I'm sore from hooping on Sunday. I'm getting a little older, but I try to go out there and play when I can. So, my brother threw me the lob, and I'm trying to, complete the play every single time.
Yeah. So how was that? You said you had older brothers and stuff. How was that growing up? As far as that dynamic, playing hoop, how was that?
So I'm the middle. So my older brother's 5 years older, and I got a younger brother that's 2 years younger than me. And it's just really competitive, how it is with brothers. We compete over everything. And then I want to say my brother went off to college, and I was in ninth grade. He came back, and I was like, yo, you can't guard me. And he was like, man, whatever. When you get 13, 14, you kind of start figuring stuff out. And then my younger brother, who was better than me for a while, because he picked up everything faster, because he was playing with older guys. So every now and again we'll get out there and get the Bengay and the Neosporin going. We have an old catch up, but it's just a lot of fun, man. Shout out to my brothers.
Yeah, for sure. But what was the first class you think you actually were like, all right, I'm actually gonna evaluate. I'm actually gonna sit down and do pros and cons and actually look into these guys and dive a little deeper? What was that first class?
Was the 27? I believe it was the 2017 class. Markelle Fultz went number one.
Oh, the Tatum. Okay, Tatum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lonzo went 2. Tatum went 3. I was really high on Fultz, just like everybody was. I wasn't as high on Lonzo, and I know he had the injuries, but I still think that, he would have been a good player. I didn't see number 2. I was really high on De'Aaron Fox, and I liked Tatum. I want to say if it's still online, I call it Tatum post broken leg Paul George. And I feel like that's a pretty good comparison. So, but yeah, 2017 draft was the first time I was like, what, let me put these ideas down, or let me get it outside of my comfort zone of talking to, my family and the few guys that I, talk basketball with. So, and ever since then, I did some here and there, arguing with my brother. And then I said, I came back for last year's draft, and, I thought it was a successful draft for me as an evaluator. And here I am now. in his current 2025 draft.
So what's the biggest takeaway from an evaluation standpoint that you've learned from that 2017 class to now to the 2025? Well, what's the biggest thing you've learned in that span?
The biggest thing is I have to and continue to have to like not look at it from just a fan perspective. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a guy can have a aesthetically pleasing game, but it's got to be more than that. You know what I'm saying? Like I really like player X's game, but will it translate is what, you know, I find myself having to like, you know, tell myself, hey, you know, look at this from a different perspective. And then also like the role player guys who get drafted really high. Like if, for example, in this particular draft, like Carter Bryant, he's like the sexy name. And it's like, I get it. But to me, am I, you know, just drafting a guy, and he got a green room invite, but drafting a guy to be a role player is just something I kind of like struggle with in a sense.
Yeah,
it's like,
I get you.
It can go either way. You know what I'm saying? You can end up turning into like it worked out for OG Anunoby, Nick, but he was drafted what in the 20s, I believe. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
like,
late teens.
A green room invite.
Yeah,
and you know, and then it could end up being like Patrick Williams for Chicago, who he's still trying to figure it out. So those are the guys I still kind of like struggle with. You know, some other ones is like, you know what, that's probably not going to work. But those guys where, you know, you average 6 points a game, you know, and you got to do the number crunching to figure out how many shots he would take if he played X amount of minutes. Those are always at least a challenge for me. And that's just me like being honest as an evaluator.
Yeah, and that's why he's such a polarizing guy for me and try to figure out, because it's like, all right, you see all the potential with the size and everything, and everyone loves the 6'8" wing.
Everybody loves that, right?
You hear 6'8", you hear the wingspan, you're like, oh, and I think we sometimes fall in love with that too much.
Played with a measuring tape though, and that's the thing. And it's like, you know, I get it, and I'm just trying to think like. For me, I like my role players older. The guy that's like, you know what, I can't do it like I used to, and let me ease into this role. And like another example, this is like, you know, even before me covering the draft, but like Otto Porter was probably like a numbers guy, and you know he had his injuries and whatnot, but he like his role, like it worked when he was old as a warrior, you know, and he had some moments with the Wizards, but like. He was drafted really, really high, and he ended up being like a role guy. I get it, but those are the guys I got to watch 3 and 4 times. Sometimes I can look at a guy and be like, you know what? He's got it. And other times I'm like, you know what? I got to rewatch.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I was on your brother's podcast right when I first really started, because I started like 2020 when I really got into and I was on your brother, and we were talking about, you know, the Knicks had to think it was the 8th or 9th pick. And it was centered around Obi Toppin, and I loved Obi, and like I said, I was still in fan mode. I was still transitioning to try to understand how to evaluate, but I was still in fan mode. So if you just watch Obi Toppin and you see the East Bay dunks, how is he not the top prospect? Like this guy he's tall, he's strong, he has everything you want. Like he should be the number 1 pick. And your brother was kind of like, he kind of broke it down for me why he may not be the superstar level player that I was envisioning, you know, and he broke it down. And I remember just like, it took me a little bit to figure it out. It took me a few years to be like, he was right. I saw from the fan, and then I was like, wow, he broke it down really well. Like, all right, he's athletic, but there's a different type of athleticism.
Yeah. And I'm like he needed a runway. He
needed a runway to be. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, and I couldn't comprehend that. I'm like, what do you? I don't. So it took me as I started watching him, obviously being a Knicks fan and watching Obi, I was like, wow. And I always reference to that with Obi, and I would tell Knicks fans, he's not going to be what because there was like a point where Knicks fans wanted him to start over Julius Randle. Yeah, and I was like, no, that's not him. That's not who he is. That's not who he is. He's more of a. What he's in Indiana. That's the type of play. That's exactly what I finally figured out. And that's what your brother was trying to tell me. And I was, wow. And I was like, that was like the aha moment. I was like, okay. And that's when I figured it out.
He, like at Dayton, he looked like Amari Stoudemire. right?
And that was the comp. I was like, yo, he's just Mari Stoudemire. I was
He
like,
looked
oh
like
yeah,
Amari
we're gonna get
Stoudemire.
ourselves a potential steal. But I was like, yo, he's gonna be gone by the time we pick. And I was like,
Yeah.
but Amari comp was one of a comp that I heard a lot.
Yeah, comps are difficult and they're tricky. I
I
try
don't
to
like
base mine on sometimes it's projection and sometimes it's playing style and sometimes it's just how like guys just move around the court, you know? Like for like in this particular draft, I think, and me arguing with my brother, like I bring this up to him all the time, but I was like, I told him in the first game Duke played, I was like, yo, Cooper Flag is a 3. He's not gonna play like the 4 like you think, like he's not the play finisher. He's like, nah, and I'm like, I'm telling you, man, like there's subtle moves where it's a foundation where it looks like he's gonna be able to comfortably handle the ball on the wing. And I'm like, he reminds me of Kawhi in a sense where it's gonna be a mixture of power and like pull up jumpers. And I mean, his handle is going to have to like progress, obviously, tremendously.
Yeah, I'm better.
But like, he doesn't, if he has a small on him, he's going to put his shoulder in his chest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get a big on him, he can go by him. And I think that his handle, even from like last year, is not even close to what it was. And then like his handle when he was like playing the pure 4 or 5 with his homies in Maine isn't close to what it was. So he's one I was like, you know what? I think he's going to be like a Kawhi Leonard type. And then I don't want to say I'm the first, but now like a lot of people are saying like, oh, he's actually like a wing now. So
yeah.
It's just, you look at it from different things. And I guess my strongest quality, I would say, from like this draft is like, I'm not afraid of my opinion, Like if I say something and I really believe it. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to tell you. Like I'll go back and evaluate guys. But like if I say, hey, I think this guy is here, I'm not looking for confirmation from like the draft community. Cause like for what? Like I'm me,
Exactly. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people when they do the evaluate, they're afraid to be wrong.
Yeah.
Like they're really, and like I had Killian Hayes number 1 in that draft. Like I was a Killian Hayes guy, and I've gone on the limb and said, "Hey man, I read the room wrong." And KOC had him number 1 too. When
I talked to him, I was like, they gonna get me. I was like, I appreciate you for laughing that off, because a lot of people when they're wrong, they don't want to. Like you're gonna be wrong, Like front offices are wrong, the Pistons are wrong
all the time.
I've met Killian Hayes' agent and he'll say, you know what, there's injury and then confidence. And like when he lost his confidence,
that's what it seems like. Yeah.
That's the most, like, I mean, injuries suck, right? But like when you don't have any confidence in yourself, like you can't, rehab that. That's not a 2 to 4 week injury. Like that's something that you got to figure out, within yourself. So, but he's still young. Maybe he figures it out a little later. I know Dante Exum he had an injury and then he was out in Australia and then he comes back and maybe that's what Killian Hayes' path is. But it happens, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and KOC influenced me a lot with that. But you just got to own it. It's like, all right, I learned a lot from it. I guess I learned a lot from that, but you just got to own it. And I tell people all the time, like, yeah, man, I thought Killian Hayes over Anthony Edwards. They're like, how could you? I was like, man, you have to understand, like, it just, I was thinking like he was going to be a hybrid D'Angelo Russell. And I was like that. I was more guaranteed of that than what Anthony Edwards was. But I had Anthony Edwards too, though. It wasn't like I had him 6, 7. I had him 2. So
I was sold on Anthony Edwards in the Maui invitation. I forget who they played, and he just ran off like 12, and he was getting steals. And I was like, he doesn't move like normal people.
He's different. But with this class, I'm a lot of people when we were going into everyone talked about 2020. We all knew the Ace Baileys, the Harpers, the Cooper Flags, the VJ. But there was like the depth of this class could be like you can get. And I talked to with Steven from those Stealing Jazz. I was like, you can get maybe an all-star steal in the first round. You can get a legit really good starter at one point. And now with NIL and college just throwing crazy money like. I think this is the least amount of entries into the draft in like a decade or some of them. I could be wrong on the number, but it was that. But What do you think of the effect of that? Like, is that something you think we're going to continue to see with this new era of money? And, you know, I know there's some things that have changed, like schools can pay. So I don't know if there's going to be more of a cap and stuff, but do you think this is something we're going to see more? Because it looks like, you know, we're going to see guys that you probably have guys that you probably didn't even have a draftable grade that are going to get bumped now simply because someone got to get drafted.
Right. I think it benefits both parties in a sense. So like,
I think so too. Yeah.
LeBaron Philon went back to school like 5 minutes before the deadline and blew up a lot of people's like big boards and stuff. But he feels like, you know, not even just the money. I think, and especially for like point guards, especially like Philon, Tahai Pettiford, if you look at their situation versus how a Jeremiah Fears situation, Jeremiah Fears had the keys. You know, it was like 3 games in, and you realize he was the best player on the team. So he had plenty of leeway to make mistakes, whereas Tahai Pettiford was on a top 5 team all year. Baron Philon played, you know, alongside Mark Sears, and they had Aiden Holloway. So it's like for those guys, not only do they get to go back to school and make some good money, obviously, but you get to go and probably improve on your draft stock. And another thing that I've learned about covering the draft is that your preseason top 10, 20, half those guys are not going to be there because situations, injuries, some guys just aren't as good at, you know, it's just a lot to, you know, a lot happens. So I think for the NIL space, I think that it's good that guys can go back, you know, and they're making money. I'm all for college guys making money. Like, I don't understand the argument of, I'm not the super fan guy where he's like, oh, I can't keep up with this team. Like, nah, man, just treat it like a 1-year deal, get to know the kids, and, you know, see what happens. But it's good for them. And then it's also good because there's a lot of 5th-year guys, you know, with no eligibility left who are probably, you know, going into the combine. Maybe they were not even the combine, just post-tournament. Could have been 60 on the board. And 10 guys go back to school. Now you're looking at an opportunity to get drafted. Then, you know, you start working out, you can weed out and beat out another 10 guys. So you can catch yourself in the 40s. And it's like, I just think that what's supposed to happen for those guys, it happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm all for it. I think that, you know, next year there's somebody who we're going to be talking about as a one and done who's going to go back to school. And it's just the nature of the business. But I mean, I got used to it. My issue, I guess, if I did have an issue, is that I think sometimes going back to school, you can't always improve your draft stock. Just because, you know what, if you shot 38% one year and you go back and shoot 33%, they're gonna say you can't shoot. Or
Hunter Salas. I think of Hunter Salas when they think about that.
I mean, he rolled the dice, and he's gonna be on both ends of it. Like I personally thought he was a 1st-round grade last year.
I did too.
School. He doesn't shoot the ball as well from 3. He's still, you know, really good in the mid range. But with guys dropping out this year, I think he finds himself back in position to be in the 40s and 50s. And I think he's going to make a team. So eventually things do play out for themselves. But like, I guess the concern that I have, I guess you could say for a player, not for like Philon and Pettiford, but for somebody like Yaxel Lindenberg.
He's an older guy too.
You're an older guy, and it's like, I don't necessarily think you need to play in a power 4 atmosphere to prove that you can play, because the second best player for the Thunder is Jalen Williams. He went to Santa Clara, you know? And it's like, if you can play, you can play. And he played well at the combine. From what I hear, scouts really liked him. But, I mean, you know, who am I to tell you not to take $3 million allegedly from Michigan? I'm just – you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work as far as your NBA draft stock.
Yeah. And I think for the NBA, I think it helps them because now they might get, you know, that player that goes back to school that next year or whatever, they're going to get a more polished player. You know, we know the NBA is so young, right? We're talking about guys, you know, in their prime at, you know, NBA was 23, 22. Like it feels like, you know, Jason Tatum's only like 27, right? You know, guys are coming out super young. So, and, you know, we talk about depth and how important that is. And, you know, you need some of those older guys to come in. You know, you can't just wait. And we know the NBA can be impatient at times. You can't wait for that 20-year-old, you know, for 3-4 years, you got to try to win now. Now you get that guy who's 23, more polished. You take him to the second round or back in the first, and you're going to get more of that. So I think it benefits. Like I said, it benefits. Everyone gets benefited. And like I said, some of those guys who are like Hunter Salas, it looked like, all right, like last year, maybe he was a first round pick. Some people had him, top 20, and then and I thought he was a first round caliber talent too. And then there's at one point he's not even on. I don't see people on top 60 boards. Mm-hmm. And now with everyone going back to school, he benefits it. So it's like it's crazy how it worked, where it kind of goes full circle and it helps out. But I think the NBA benefits it too, because you're going to get more polished players that are going to be in your roster that you can use instead of the developmental, waiting 3-4 years, for a guy to pop. But who was, since we're talking about that from the start, and how everything changes. Your big board from when the season started is completely different from when it is now. So who are some of the biggest risers and fallers from that first board you did before the season to now?
I want to say to start off with like fallers would be guys that went back to school. Like I was really high and he was smoking high at one point, like Ian Jackson. He at one point was shooting like 40-something% from three. Yeah. And I know he didn't really offer much like playmaking, and the defense needed to be better, but he was a scoring machine. And like those 6'4" guys that can give you instant offense, like they find a way. And which is crazy. His teammate now at St. John's is Josan Sanin, who was the same person as him. So it's like at one point I thought, these guys might be top 20 picks. And then the season carries on, and now they're both at the same school fighting for, opportunities. Biggest riser, I want to say, so my brother says I cheat, and I kind of do cheat. I don't like to do a preseason big board because it's like that's for content. And I don't consider myself a content creator. I want to be right. I don't want to just put something out to talk about on Twitter. That's just not me. If you follow me, like I might go a week without posting, or I might post every day. It just I'm
the same way too. I'm the same way.
I'm trying to like really live my raps. Like I'm not just out here trying to engage. So I knew little to nothing about Jeremiah Fears coming out, and then I saw them play Arizona.
I know you like him a lot.
And I'm like, he's 18 and he's out there killing everybody. And I tweeted, I was like, he looks like a top 5 pick. Like, I don't see any guards like doing what he does. Can't keep him out the paint. He's tough, baby face. Like he's supposed to be in high school. So I guess you would say he would be my biggest riser, considering I knew little to nothing about him. And then like after a few games, I was like, he looks like he's a top 5 pick. And then he might be there. He's a top 7-8 pick, I think, in a couple weeks at worst. So, but like, those are probably the main guys. Like I said, I try to make my stuff after like a week of action so I can see. Like, I want to be right, man. I don't want to be first.
So with Fears, all right, obviously, he's super talented, right? But people are going to bring up the inefficiency. So how do you explain that to someone who's just going to look at his stats and look at his splits and be like, well, he shoots 29% from three, and he's a sub, a below 45% shooter. How do you explain that to someone who's trying to, when you're trying to justify he's a top 5 player? How do you explain that to someone?
So how I would explain that to somebody is, okay, keep in mind, he's supposed to be finishing his high school class, right? So he's already a year behind, and he's not at the physical advantage of a Jaden, I forget how to pronounce his last name, Quaintance, who was at Arizona State. Like that's a grown man who played at 17 in the Big 12, and he would just transfer to get.
Oh, the kid from Arizona State.
Arizona yeah. So I'd say this, and I get it. Like the rim efficiency needs to be better, and the 3-pointer needs to be better. But when you watch Oklahoma play, he did not have consistent catch and shoot opportunities for himself. And it was a lot of like late shot clock grenades. So if somebody doesn't know what I'm saying, there's 3 seconds on the clock. I'm not trying to kill my field goal percentage. Throw you the ball, you go make a play. Right. So he's got to shoot those bombs. And like he was the engine of a team that was, my brother said that they were picked 15th in the SEC. Historically, preseason 15th. Historically, this was the toughest conference in college basketball history.
Every night a dogfight.
Every night. And so we're talking about a kid who he reclassed up. He didn't start the first 3 games of the season. He starts for the rest of the season out. They start 14-0. They beat Arizona. Arizona was a good team. They got Carter Bryant, who everybody seems to love, right? Nobody in Arizona could check him. And, you know, he's talking – if you get an opportunity, go back and watch that game. He was talking trash. Like, the confidence, like that stuff, like, we're not going to get on the spreadsheet, you know? So, the Michigan features Danny Wolf, who's probably a first-round pick, Vlad Golden, second-round pick, undrafted. He'll be an opportunity to play in the NBA. He is attacking them every trip down the court. And it's like he had a drop off in production, obviously, because, again, it happens, especially with point guards. You're going to have some terrible games. But when they need him down the stretch to make the tournament, like he's winning games. They needed a big game against Mississippi State. He won. And it's like I heard some chatter out here on the streets, and they say that the team respected him and they knew that he was the guy at 18. Like their seniors knew that. And it's like, you can't really quantify that. Again, does he need to get better at the rim? Absolutely. If you watch the film, some of it is a lack of strength. Some of it is decision-making. You don't need to take on 3 guys, but those are things you can fix, but you can't teach him getting to the rim as often as he does. Like, no screen needed. This is a straight line blow by. And as he gets older, like those are driving kicks. And last thing about Fears, before I get too far on the tangent, like think about that game against Connecticut, right? I think he shot 5 of 14. He didn't shoot the ball well. He missed a dunk, a couple of layups he should have made, but they were in that game. And there was a stretch, I want to say the last 2 minutes of the game, where he's finding guys and they couldn't make shots.
Yeah.
At the NBA level, like you got assassins out there in that corner. So it's like a off night where he was 5 of 14, he had like 20. Like in the NBA, that's 7-8 assists. Like the difference between, you know, and it's no disrespect to anybody, but the difference between your guy at Oklahoma who's going to play in, you know, Russia next year versus if the Nets take him, and that's Cam Johnson in the corner, like we're running down the court.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'm high on him. Again, the efficiency needs to improve, but it's just like the things that you can't teach, he's got.
No, and you made a good point. Like, obviously in college, you could be the star, but you could have other guys who are not pro-level players. Yeah. And you may have made the right pass or the right read and whatever, but that guy is just not at that level, you know? Where, like you said, you go to the next level and you're playing on the Nets as Cam Johnson right there, you know? You got guys who can do things with the ball, and like you said, you go from having just 3 assists. Oh, he doesn't like to pass the ball. It's like, well, if you watched it, he actually did, but the other 6 times he passed it, the guys did absolutely nothing with it. You know,
and that was the difference between beating the repeat national championship team and losing. So I think that, like, you know, I think he's got. I still think he's growing, for one, because again, he's young. And I think he still has growing as a player, but like just leadership, toughness, not afraid of the moment. And then he's a wizard with the ball. I think he's going to be fine. It's just going to take some time because he's young.
Yeah. And like I said, he's supposed to be getting ready for his freshman year right now. They did it with Flag too. Like the first game, like when he's trying to go, you know, so he's trying to go one-on-one, go ISO, and he turns the ball over, and people are like, oh, see that you guys hyped him up, and it's like, come on now, let's be real.
17, and like I told my brother, and we did a podcast after that game, and I was like, I do not care that he turned the ball over because you know what, when it was down the stretch, Duke was an old team. I mean, they had, you know, their freshmen, obviously Knipple and Malawach and Cooper, but like they had transfer guys in the portal. It was like get him on the Flag. And I believe that Kentucky game, like he's going at Kobe Bryant, like this dude can't guard me. He's 17. And even that last shot against Houston, like that was the correct shot to take, the step back.
Exactly.
Don't care if you miss it, because I'm thinking about 10 years from now when you figured everything out. So
Mhm.
little stuff like that like matters a lot to me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And context is key, especially with, you look at stats in college and people be like, well, he's inefficient. Well, there's more to it. You gotta actually dive into it. But give me a couple international guys that you're feeling and some that you're not feeling.
All right, so I want to sit here and give myself some props. I've been on the Hanson Yang train.
Biggest winner of the combine. Is he the biggest winner of the combine? He might be.
The biggest riser from the combine would probably be him. Maxime Renault.
Yeah.
Tahad Pettiford would have been, but he came back the second day and didn't play as well. But like Renault shut it down after a great game. Mm-hmm. But I say Yang because, we, for the most part, Renault, well, he's in the ACC. So, you can go back and look and say, okay, where Yang is like, you don't know if he can play because the CBA is the CBA. There's only 2 Americans out there. It's a different level of athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
But digging into his old tape, like his under 17s, under 18s, like, he kicked everybody's butt. Like that dude's tough. And then to see him go out there in the combine day 2, like, I mean, you could just search his name in there and there's like 7 or 8 plays where he's like, oh. Yeah. And he like, my biggest concern with him was the speed of the game. And he was slow the first day, but the second day he figured like he blocked the Michael Peavy's shot off of close like that right there. Mm-hmm. That's what I was good from there. But like I was a Yang fan. I thought he could have came out last year. Like I said, last year was a wide open draft. I'm thinking about it or not, I don't know. But people on our channel on the YouTube, when I said he was a top 15 pick last year, they was clowning me, calling me all kind of names. Maybe I go blow the dust off that podcast.
Man, YouTube comments are crazy, man.
It is, man. And I don't let it get to me, but I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna see. But Hanson Yang is my favorite international guy. Noah Singh is an international guy. He's rising up the ranks. I saw him in person last year in Dubai. I was sold on the motor. He's still a bit raw, but at the same time, he might just be a guy that you never run a play for, and he somehow gets you 12 points, 7 rebounds. He gets fouled a few times. His jump shot is still a major work in progress, but he's come a long way. And even though like he's still not a shooter, he shoots them. He's confident. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in like confidence because eventually, all that work that you put in, if you stay confident in yourself, eventually it should, pay off at some point. But I like Yang. I like Asenge. It'll be interesting to see what Neocalis Dallas does. He has a few days to decide if he's going to take that alleged Virginia Tech offer or he's going to go to the NBA. I think he's a first round talent. But those are probably my 3 favorite international guys.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting international guys. It's definitely, and with Noah, I don't know. I feel like he's a Raptor. Like, I just feel like he'd be the perfect Raptor.
I've had him mocked to the Raptors. He's a Raptor. He's a guy that's like, man, we don't know what position he plays. He just is a hooper. And, they like 6'8", 6'9" guys, and he can play. I think he's going to be somebody that if the Raptors do take him, he cracks the rotation. He's productive, and, he just figures it out because he's another one that's super young. Like he played, I believe he turned 18 like at the end of December.
Yeah, he's a baby.
Yeah,
he's a baby. But what about the guys who played in the States, and Igor and Yakionis? Like, how do you feel about those guys?
So Yegor is, how can I say this? I believe Yegor is the best passer in the draft. I think he's a gifted passer. I just wish he was more aggressive. I think the shooting will eventually come along to be respectable, but he just lacks a certain level of aggression. And I know a lot of people like to compare him to Josh Giddey, and Josh Giddey is aggressive. He was only not aggressive when his confidence, when he had that off the court stuff going on. That's when he looked like he didn't know what he was doing. But before that, he was flirting with a triple double.
Yeah. We saw him in Chicago. He looks like like an all-star level player because obviously with having SGA, I could see why his confidence would be up and down because, you're thinking to have the ball in your hand, but SGA obviously levels up. And then in Chicago, it's like, people are like, is this like an all-star level player? Like with that game winner here in LA, like that was a regular season game. Like Chicago having no chance, and that felt like a playoff game. Like he had people,
man, I'm telling you, man, confidence is everything. That dude is two different players when everything is going good in his head. He shoots the ball with confidence. But like Yegor to me is just not aggressive. And I get in a sense that, for a team like Orlando, it works because if you think about it, Orlando closed the season out with Corey Joseph starting at point guard. I know Jalen Suggs was hurt, but they just needed somebody that could just, take the ball handling pressure off of Paolo and Franz, get the guys in, run some sets. I think Yegor can do that, day one, day two, depending on the situation where he's drafted. I just wish he were more aggressive. If he were more aggressive, I would take him in the top 10. I mean, he's 6'9", he can pass. I think he's got a good feel for the game. It's just there's times where he's like, you know what, I'm cool on dribbling the ball. And again, I know you're not going to play Houston in the NBA, but if you play the Pacers might pick you up. They will pick you up full court. What are you going to do with that? And that to me, are you a point guard or are you a dude that's tall that can pass? There's a difference. Yeah. Yakachonis, to me, I know he had a smoking hot start. And
Nick, that was like, should he go 3? Like there was some talks of that at one point, right? He was above. Some people had him above Ace when Ace was going some struggles. They had him above Ace. I seen that. It's crazy.
But I want to say, like, I don't want to sit here and pretend like I'm some genius or anything like that. But I look at how he scores, and I always try to look at like what does a bad game look like? Like what does an off night look like for him? So he started off smoking hot, and it was like a ton of step back threes. And there were step back threes, in my opinion, because he couldn't beat anyone off the dribble.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, if that's not falling, or once the scouting report comes out and it's like crossover step back, what are you going to do? He's really like screen reliant to me, and he turns the ball over a lot. Yeah. So I think he's more of a 10 to 15 guy. And I always kind of thought that my rationale is my point guard, or especially like when he was hooping, right, and the numbers were great. My thinking is, okay, if I'm taking him in the top 5, I am a franchise level point guard. My franchise level point guard needs to be able to beat everybody off the dribble.
Exactly, yeah.
Or beat every mismatch. And I just didn't. Even when he was making shots, I didn't see that from him. So, but he's like I think he's going to be not a point guard, but somebody that's like your complementary guard to like let's say if Minnesota were drafted, like he would complement Anthony Edwards. Where I need you to run the offense, get my guy off the ball and make shots again. I do think he'll be able to shoot the ball at a better level. But I don't need you to be my engine, is what I'm saying about Yakachonis.
No, yeah, that makes complete sense. It's funny, the team we're going to talk about next, he'd actually be a good fit there, but obviously they don't have a first-round pick. But the New York Knicks, they don't have a first-round pick. They traded it when they traded all them picks from Mikal Bridges, and there's still people talking about that, and I wasn't crazy about it. But, they indeed did it, and they were supposed to have 2 seconds. One of them they lost in the tampering stuff with Jalen Brunson. I think that was well worth it. He's done. I think he's done some pretty good things here in New York. But obviously Tom Thibodeau's no longer there. So there's a lot of people thinking, especially with last year's draft, which I think they actually did pretty well. And I wasn't a Pacome guy, but I think the second round, you liked him?
I like Pacome. So when you talk about young guys and not getting an opportunity, or matter of fact, like if you make that comparison to Carter Bryant, where Carter Bryant, all of his stuff is assisted field goals. Yeah. All of his dunks, all of his points are somebody getting him the ball. Pacome showed me last year that he could kind of he might be able to create his own shot in a few years. And if worst case scenario, he can, be 6'8", 6, because he did measure like 6'9", I believe. Yeah. Worst case scenario, he can stand in the corner and make threes. But I liked Huck Porter. You guys did a good job there. I liked Kolek from where he was drafted at, but he couldn't crack the rotation. So at 50, I don't know what you're gonna do at 50 because you guys got the tax coming up, and it's like, what do you do with Michael Bridges? I know he's eligible for an extension, but do you
I
want
think
to
we're
do
going to
that?
wait on that. They might wait
Right.
on that.
So you're over the tax by a lot.
And we don't have a coach yet. And we don't have
a coach, and you don't even have a plan. So it's like, do you even keep the 50th pick, or do you sit here and say, man, we got to try to get some run for the guys we drafted last year? Kevin McCullough, I know he played in the G League last year. Maybe he's ready. But, I mean, at 50, what do you want? A wing? Do you need a point guard? I think there's going to be wings at 50. We talked about Hunter Salas. I really like Hunter a lot. Maybe he's there at 50, but I think he's somebody like the New York Knicks fan base would really like because he is a basketball player, not a role player, in the sense where like if you need him to stand in the corner, because that's where he's gonna have to cut his chops at, right? But I think that eventually he'll be able to knock down those catch and shoot jumpers. But if you chase him off the line, he's money in the mid range, and he's a good enough playmaker. He defends, he rebounds. He's somebody I really like at 50. Jameer Watkins out of Florida State. He's another one of those guys where, you know what, he's from the area. He's from Trenton, New Jersey, but he's definitely somebody.
I just came from Trenton too. That's funny. I was just in Trenton.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. He's definitely somebody that, you know what, he's a blue collar guy through and through. Gonna defend at a high level. I was at the combine. He was guarding point guards, full court. He's guarding Tahai Pettiford, full court. Like, not too many people want that assignment. But he's guarding Tahai Pettiford, he's guarding Javon Small full court. He's 6'7", great physical features. Again, the shooting needs to improve, but he's going to be a hard hat guy. Like, that's what, New York basketball has always been about since I was a kid watching, Oakley and Hubert Davis and all those guys. So I like those particular wings, but I almost wouldn't be surprised because like the Knicks just got to figure out what they're going to do with Bridges in this cap situation. And like you hear the rumors about Durant, like, we'll see.
Yeah. And like I said, but I just think I think fans are just like, regardless of who the coach is, they're probably going to have a more modern approach to basketball. All right, Tibbs is still he's one of the few older statesman coaches, right? He's there's not a lot of them left. Him, Spo, Carlisle, like there's very few of the old. And even Carlisle is more modern, with his
Carlisle reinvents himself every time he needs to.
Exactly, right. So he's more modern, and I just think with whoever the coach is, I think it's going to be very important to make sure that the development of the younger players from next year, that might just be the difference between, staying at home and being in the NBA finals is just the depth on the bench. Yeah. Like we just didn't have that. And Brunson just got overworked too much. And if Kolek was developed maybe a little bit more, or if any of these guys were developed a little bit more, maybe that's the difference, So I think we got to just look how like Indiana does it and try to match guy. Like I said this, like it feels like Indiana, like when Halliburton comes off, they have someone, not obviously TJ McConnell's not Halliburton, but he does some things in that
how
sense.
They play does not change.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm trying to say, like it doesn't change that much.
Basketball.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like that. I'm like, that's like, I think we're top heavy. Like our starters, like our three best players are probably like that's the first three guys you would take if you were drafting between us and Indiana, but it's the depth. And I was like, that's what we need to do. I know everybody wants to get KD and the Giannis thing and stuff, but I'm like, if we just get the depth, if we have a coach who has a more modern philosophy, that just might be the difference.
And you look at the Thunder, or 9-10 deep. Pacers are 9-10 deep. I want to say Boston last year. Really, look at the Nuggets. Depth killed them. They got the best player in the world. Nobody can do anything with Jokic. Yeah. But, they had no bench. Exactly. And then when guys start getting hurt, like Michael Porter couldn't lift his arm up, it really shows. So it's like, I think the mindset of the franchise in the NBA has changed. Usually rotations are shorter, but it's like I think that we might go back to like how we're seeing the double big lineups. I think come playoff time, I think you're going to see more 9-10 man lineups instead of the 7-man rotations of yesteryear where guys are just gassing out. Because just the movement. Like imagine okay. You don't even have to imagine. The Pacers are guarding Jalen Brunson full court, right? And then you got to come back on the other end and create offense. And yes, Jalen Brunson was amazing in isolation, but like eventually you get tired.
He had to work though. Like, yeah, he had some
Yeah.
good score, but he had to work. And that to me,
Exactly.
it just got to a point. We get to the fourth. That's where we blew that fourth quarter lead in that game one. Like, we just didn't have enough. You know, and so like if we can just get the depth, I'm just big on that. Like, I know the KD sounds good. Giannis obviously is good. I think that's more of a pipe dream. I just don't know why they would want that.
That's because you guys are the Knicks, man. You guys get attached to everybody.
We get attached there. And then you know what? I used to say this, like we used to get attached, but that would be the media. And then the Knicks, the fans would get crapped on. It's like, no. Stephen A. Smith said that, not us.
Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, you know, like Stephen A. Smith was saying that. Like I remember with KD when in 19, he was like, he's coming to the Knicks. Okay, you're telling us he's coming. You're supposed to be in. You know all these. You know you got sources. He's telling us we're gonna get him. 99% chance. Okay, we're gonna feel good about that. And then when we don't get him, you guys thought you were gonna. It's like no, they told us.
And you know what's crazy? I think KD is that spiteful person where he's like, you know what? Because Stephen A. said I was going, I'm not gonna go. He seems like one of those guys because you know he said. Like, I don't talk to you. We don't talk to the same people.
Exactly. You know, it's like with LeBron with the Windhorse. Like, everyone thought Windy with him. And then, like, LeBron's like, nah, we're not. No, we ain't cool like that. Yeah. You know? But, like, everything in New York gets great. But, like, you know, with the 50 pick, there's so many different avenues. We don't even know who's going to be the coach. Obviously, there's some intriguing names. But I want Kobe Bryant would be perfect. I doubt he's going to be there now. I don't think he's going to be there 50 but a shooter like him would be perfect in New York.
Replaces Shamet, yeah.
You know,
should have played a lot earlier, but yeah, I can see a Kobe Bryant working out there. I don't know about his defense though. I think that can't on the court at the same time, man. We my napkin, man. We about to eat.
But, just give him 5 minutes and just shoot it. You don't gotta worry about.
You know what though? I know who I do like there. He's not as big as Kobe Bryant, but I like Chaz Lanier out of Tennessee. Chaz Lanier can really shoot the ball, and he is of the mold of a scorer who can shoot, not just a shooter. Yeah. So I really like Chaz. He's not the biggest guy. I think he measured at like 6'4" or 6'5", but he can draw fouls and he can shoot. I really like him. I think I tend to like him more than Kobe Bryant, even though Kobe Bryant is bigger. But Chaz Lanier has a burner for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we'll see what that is. But James, I appreciate you coming on the show, bro. It's like I said, the first time on the show. I've been wanting to get you on, and you've been doing some great things. I just saw you. You were just on. Who's the guy from FS1? Forgot his name. You were just on.
Yeah, that's my brother. He was on Jason. No. So I was on with Kevin O'Connor on Yahoo, but my brother was on with Jason McIntyre.
Okay.
Yeah, I just he shouted me out, so I guess.
Yeah. Throw the shout out. Okay, that's where I saw. Yeah, so yeah, you've been doing good things. Who's winning the finals?
I think the Thunder, but at the same time, you got to blow the Pacers. I mean, I'm sorry to keep kicking you, but like you got to blow the Pacers out. And if you don't, this is why I think the Thunder, because Tyrese Halliburton has too many single-digit games where he's just not aggressive, and he doesn't have. I'm not trying to sound like Wally Zerbiak, right? But he just doesn't have enough off the dribble to beat you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And this is not the team for you not to have a lot off the dribble.
Exactly.
Because you can't take advantage of anybody at pick and roll because they got 4 guys out
There's
there.
No Karl Anthony Towns out there no more.
There's no Towns out there, right? And then like Dort, and they get the foul. Like Dort is hacking, Caruso is hacking. Shout out to my man Kaysen. I know him from around the way. They get to be physical, and you can just tell. Like even the game that Halliburton hit that game winner, like he ran off like 6 in the 4th, but he struggled to create for himself. And I just don't know if he has enough for himself to beat the Thunder. And even if you do, it's like Anthony Edwards had enough, but they got so many. And then like Shai Gilgeous is just cold at basketball. Like that dude is amazing. He gets to the elbow every single time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's super unique, SGA. But yeah, hopefully the Pacers just They get a gentleman's sweep and they get up out of here. We don't need the we sick out here, that we're not. I think that hurts. I think that's the worst part. Is just like they took us out back to back years. It still stings, but
you guys are close, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think this, all the decisions is like I get why they let go of Tibbs. Like it's kind of like what the Raptors did. Like they made a pivot. They're like, we're tired of losing in the conference finals. Like we're tired of it, and LeBron's gone. We have an opportunity. We need to figure out how to get over that hump. And obviously, they fire Casey, they go get Nick Nurse, and then they go get Kawhi, and then they win a championship. That's my mindset. Is like if
you want,
you got to take that approach.
Who do you want?
Honestly, I was on board with Johnny Bryant. I really am. I know he hasn't been a head coach before, but he was on the Knicks before. Mm-hmm. Great player relationship, great player developer. Mm-hmm. I was on board with that. Now it seems like it was like, all right, it looked like it was Jason Kidd, but then now I'm hearing reports that like Dallas is like, no. I know they were looking at Ime, but the Rockets shot that down. So like, the other options aren't appealing to me. So I would just be like, just give it to John. And once Johnny didn't get the job with the Suns and they gave it to Jordan Ott, I was like, Johnny seems like he's the guy. Guys rock with him, just from what everyone I've talked to, like guys rock with Johnny. And so I'm like, it feels like he was the fit, but I don't know right now. I don't. But if that was me, I would pick him. I know he doesn't have experience and they want an experienced coach, but I feel like he's been around good organizations that he understands what it needs to take to be a good coach.
I mean, what's the man at the Celtics? He didn't have any experience till he got experience.
And he was like third. He wasn't even like the third assistant.
Like don't mess this up.
Just don't mess it up. And he did, and he won a championship. So if I had the choice, I would go with JB. But I guess it comes down to what Brunson wants. If Brunson wants Jason Kidd, they're gonna try to get Jason Kidd. That's his guy. So whatever Brunson wants, you kind of got to go with it. He's gotten his way so far. Listen, he's got all his guys.
If I give you a haircut on that contract, man, I need Kidd. I need no mortgage. Free food forever, man. He better than me. I'm not giving no haircut or no money like that.
What's crazy? When he did that extent, I was convinced there's not a chance he's taking less. There's just not a chance. Like he's a second round guy. He's he took
28, right? Yeah.
He's 28 already. Like, New York, you're going to pay a lot of taxes. It's not like in Dallas, it's not like where you guys are at. It's not, and it's different out here, so it's expensive. So I was like, nah, there's no way. And when he took that, I was shocked. That's why Mikal, but then like OG said, nah, I'm not doing what you guys are doing. I'm taking all of it.
OG Anunoby mindset. I need all my money.
I'm not a party at Villanova boys. I'm doing my own thing. I'm taking the 220. I'm taking the 220.
All of it, not 219. Yes.
He knows. But James, man, appreciate you for coming on the pod again, brother. I said means a lot. Like I said, first time on it. Man, it was a hell of a show. But tell the people where they can find you if you got any projects coming up.
So you can find me and my brother on the Locked On Network, Locked On NBA Big Board. On Twitter, I am Draft Junkie James. If you ask me a question, I'll respond.
You're good with that. You're good with interaction. That's good.
So, that's where you can find me at. I'll be at the draft in a couple weeks in Brooklyn.
So,
I'll be out there, in the trenches, man. I gotta dust my Timbs off, all that good stuff.
Hey, I don't know. The Timbs might not be a thing over there. That part of Brooklyn might be some what's those Birkenstocks? It's Birkenstocks over there.
I gotta restore the fit. Listen, man.
There's some of the fits out there. Birkenstocks with socks, it's crazy fits.
I was over by Marcy. I can't wear Birkenstocks. I'm over by Marcy, man. I know what time it is. Cough up alone, man.
Man, yeah, you see it, man. I see it all the time. It's like, man, I can't believe the fits, man. I just can't believe the fits, man. We're not living up to our reputation, man. No Tim. You don't see Tim's anymore. You see the Birkenstocks, though. But
We just getting old, man. That's what that is.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm getting old. I got called Unc a few days ago. I was like, damn, I'm old. I'm 36. I'm getting called Unc. Damn.
Yeah, I got hit with the Unc, and I was like, man, my short's not even baggy like that for you to be calling me Unc.
Word, right?
I thought I look good out here, man. I only got a couple grades. Calling me Unc.
I thought I had the right fit, and I'm still getting called Unc.
Yeah,
It's funny. That's cool, man. But like I said, keep doing great work, brother. You too. You guys, you and your brother are doing great work with evaluating and keep pushing it. And I said you're gonna be at the draft. I don't know if I don't know, the draft's on a Tuesday. I might try to go. We'll see. Maybe we could link up or something. But
for sure,
appreciate you coming on the pod, bro. Means a lot. And like I said, keep doing great work. But on that note, you can follow me at Off the Ball Pod. You can make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to give 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify. And make sure to follow me on all social platforms. And I'll have James' stuff all posted on in the description, all his socials and all that. But on that note, be well, be safe, take care, peace out.